There you go. Hi. Good
Hi,
morning. Which part of
everybody.
the world are you in?
Just landing in Mexico City. What about you?
Broadcasting live from Doha, Qatar.
Ooh. Hello, everybody in the audience. Let us know where you are based at the moment.
Yes. So, why are we doing this special episode today? We just saw each other one night ago.
Look, I'm wearing my Despise girl.
Oh,
So.
I
Woohoo.
didn't have time to change because we just came from the conference center. And guess what? We have two young feminists with us on March 8th in the observation of International Working Women's Day. Woohoo! Give it up.
Yay!
So let them introduce themselves.
Yes,
So who goes first?
I can go first. Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa. I am with the International Women's Rights Action Watch Asia Pacific as their Environmental Justice Program Officer, and I'm happy to be here.
Hi,
Yay!
I'm Babita. I'm from Kerala, and I'm work with children and young adults in the realm of sustainability and waste management and environment.
And we have somebody here working quietly in the background, making sure that we're able to transmit live, loud and clear. That's Denise.
Hi, Denise!
All right. So, why are we here today?
Why?
What brought us to Doha?
So, we're attending the Least Developed Countries UN conference being held in Qatar at the Qatar National Conference Center. And for us, it's been an experience where, first of all, we're not representing LDCs, but we're very much part of the movement, women's movement, feminist movement, who do support partners in these countries. So we are here, especially for partners who don't get the opportunities to be in these spaces. We're in these spaces and happy to analyze the space, but also report back on what can be done, how they can engage in the next 10 years, which is a long time, and how we as feminists can support their work.
And also, I'm new to this LDC space because for me, this is also to understand how the UN process work and how they are interrelated, and to know people who are working in the same field.
Yeah, I think it's important for everyone to understand that even though the conference is really for least developed countries, we feel, our strong feminist analysis that the problems and challenges that LDCs face is not unique to them. No, there
Yeah.
are structural issues behind why LDCs are such, why they are least developed. And for that, we make it a feminist issue. We make it about system change, not just for the LDCs, but also for the rest of the world.
Yeah, agreed.
And we're back.
No, thank you. And I love it that there are so many young women joining our debates and our processes. So now we have been together in Doha for a week with Denise, with Babita, with Marissa. And Babita and Marissa come from the environmental movement. So this is also an interesting space because there are many strong voices in the economic justice movement speaking about global economic and financial architecture, which is, of course, we think the real way out of the situation of the LDCs. But also, what about the connections with the environmental crisis, right? So it is also really important to highlight the impacts on the ground and how the environmental dimension needs to be at the forefront of the situations. And we heard also the voices from trade unions, from those working in the food systems movements, from the health movement, etc. So it has been a very intense week, also especially in the civil society forum that has been taking a parallel space alongside the official sessions. So it has been intense. So we have the youth forum, the
Mhm.
parliamentary. I'm sorry, my brain is not
Parliamentarians Forum.
parliamentarians forum, the official sessions forum, the civil society forum, and parallel to that, we have all of these, just spaces to connect and to engage. So it has been really an important moment to show solidarity with the LDCs.
There's also a private sector forum. Of
Oh
course,
yes, I forgot about
they
that.
will always be around and they're
Yeah.
actually being promoted so much, no, in all of the official UN spaces. But what's striking for me, I don't know with the three of you, no, the four of us, is how in all of these discussions they keep on saying the same mantra. All right, leave no one behind. Leave no one behind. It's like a mantra, and you feel like everybody is just echoing the same mantra and trying to convince each other, maybe, that the Agenda 2030 or the Sustainable Development Goals can still be achieved by 2030 and leave no one behind.
It's
I
also
just
very
can't.
interesting how, especially like ministers or the states, they're coming with these very, like, in their opinion, solution-driven takes of how LDC should develop or how they can
Yeah, that's the term
graduate.
here.
Yeah, whereas these states are providing no resources of any kind for these countries to graduate as they're asking them to. So, in my opinion, I don't know how I mean, we do know how we get states to listen, but they just don't. That's my problem. So, what are we going to do next that is going to make them listen? Even to the point that today is International Women's Day,
Mm.
and we're walking around, our men are taking up the space. Yes, today's International Women's Day. Like we didn't know. They continuously announcing it for us.
Can you
Yeah.
believe that in at the conference center there was a special program at midday today? They
Yes,
cordoned
yes.
off the huge spider,
Yeah.
and the guy, no, the person who was introducing the session that, yay, we commemorate International Women's Day is a man.
It's a man.
And there were
No.
Yes, it was a man.
so we
He had to
said
let us know.
we said in our best Emilia impression, no, no, we're
We
not
don't
going
care.
to be
We
part
don't
of that.
wanna hear it.
You're a bad guy. We don't want to be tokenized in this process.
And also, like, the whole action program is kind of gender blind, as
Oh, yeah.
Petrun had pointed out in one of the sessions that we attended today. And also, like, what are we graduating to? When we say that you are graduating, what exactly are we, like, moving a threshold, and what is that is waiting for us when we graduate? Are we, like, just going to the so-called developed, quote unquote developed state?
Yeah.
Or are you just passing a threshold so that you don't get the advantages or so-called advantages or the support that is needed to be, to come to get over basic, necessities that a person should have or the state should have.
Mhm. My other concern too is also that when they talk about the graduation, I feel like graduation into developing or development. My issue is that I can see beyond 2030 or even before 2030, the goalposts will shift again. So
Mm.
what then do least developed states do to achieve development? So
Yeah.
it's just going to be another thing they need to reach. And at this stage, you're not able to reach it.
So, our dear friends, this meeting of the LDC5 is supposed to be something that will rally behind least developed countries around the Doha Program of Action. So, if you hear the acronym DPOA, it doesn't mean dead on arrival, no? It's a Doha Program of Action that basically says, we keep doing the things that we've been doing in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Extraction, export oriented, exploitation. Yeah, I think that's the more correct word on how to describe this new DPOA, which promises, again, the theme is so horrible, Emilia, no? From potential to prosperity. I can't get over that horrible theme for this conference.
No, I agree. And just to go back to what Marisa was saying, they said that they are supporting the LTCs, but it's also most of it also in terms of loans. So again, it's falling into the debt trap without real processes of transformation. And on the other hand, they have been on the trade side, they say, oh, you have lots of rare minerals, and now you're gonna be driving the green transitions. And I keep on saying, yeah, but it's the green transition of the global north. So now you're going to have more open mining in your territories, destroying the biodiversity. And, there is a huge gap in accessing energy, public services, infrastructure in the LDC. So they need to make very smart decisions in terms of, yes, are we then going to go for the rare minerals, etc.? So it has to be for the benefit of the local population. It cannot be just, again, just to be exploited by the global north. And there have been so many conversations about how the LDCs, the developing countries, are subsidizing the global north. It's just
Mm.
so obscene. All of the figures, like Germany and France emitting more carbon emissions a year than the entire African continent. I mean, it's just appalling. So
It's
the LDC,
obscene.
it's obscene. So the LDC conference has been so important, as you were saying, not only to show solidarity, but also to assess what is the current reality in the world and how can we all, in social movements, the entire global south, come together and fight. We cannot just let all of these different spaces just because they're seats, LDCs, middle income countries to fight their
Mm.
fights. We need to come together and support our challenges together.
But I think, this is not a negotiation because there is already the Doha Program of Action. What they're trying to achieve here is that level of consolidation so that everyone can just roll up their sleeves and get to implementing. We were cut off, Denise. There you go.
No, I see you. You never went. Oh,
Sorry.
We
Okay,
lost
so
you.
as I was saying, it's not a negotiation. So basically, governments and everyone else can just say what they want to say to sound good, to make us feel good. But I've attended some official sessions, and there have been really progressive, critical statements coming from developing countries, especially the LDCs from Africa. So all throughout these sessions, we hear the resounding call that the true debt relief should be debt cancellation.
Yes.
No?
yes.
If it's going to be effective at all, then we shouldn't be talking about a suspension in debt payments, but a total cancellation. And that's the only way, the genuine way for relief to happen, because the Global South, the LDCs have always been in the receiving end of unfair
Yeah.
economic policies because they access loans from the IMF, the World Bank, and so all of them are being prescribed the same economic formula for disaster.
And also, like, despite they having all LDCs having all the resources, it is as if they just come and beg for it. It is not the historical responsibility is not pointed out. It's always like, no, we are doing a favor.
Charity,
Charity work.
yeah.
Yeah. So why can't it be like hold people responsible for that? The responsibility should be held. And it's like, it's not that we have to demand it every time, like, see this, know this. And it's like, it's more like we begging, please don't leave us behind. And they them answering, we are leaving no one behind. So yeah.
We're making fun of the mantra. How irreverent. Actually, one thing that we also heard this morning is this whole multi-stakeholder, partnerships for development, etc.
Collaboration
Transnational.
towards
Yeah.
sustainability.
So we made a point earlier today that there's a whole difference, between partnership or, the responsibility of duty bearers, which in this case are governments to provide for social services, public goods for the people, and rights holders, meaning the people. But once they start injecting this multi stakeholder approach, they say that, what they mean by the private sector are small entrepreneurs,
No.
local businesses, because that's the point I made, remember, in this side
Mhm.
event. I said, there's a whole new level of accountability when you bring in private sector in this kind of partnerships, because they're only accountable to their shareholders. So this UN speaker said that
Yeah, say it like
no,
that.
we what we mean by private sector are the local businesses, small entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Of
It's like,
course.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was rolling my eyes when he was responding to my point.
Like
Another
UNESCO just partnering with Formula One some weeks ago, which is disgusting. And the youth are really rallying against that initiative because they're so partnering with fossil fuels. I mean, they base their entire profiting from the exploitation of fossil fuels and luxury products and an entire consumerism culture. And now UNESCO, of all of the UN agencies, is partnering with Formula One. So let us let us support the youth that are really calling out UNESCO, and hopefully they rescind their MOU now. So they're facing another BlackRock situation this year. It's horrible.
Yeah, I was actually going to add about the U Forum and how UNESCO is constantly in the space with the transfer of education. But I feel in some ways it's problematic. So me and Babita actually made time to
Mhm.
attend a specific session on education, but also on gender. Just throwing some girls in there and having
Yeah.
them think
Yes.
about what does education mean for girls. And there was this one Afghan girl who spoke to the issue of being girls being banned from school in Afghanistan, and it was really heartbreaking for her to share a story. But also, it was even more heartbreaking for states to just simply say, "Oh, we understand. We
We
know what this
feel for
means."
And this
you.
is, and I know this is inspiring. And somebody share your trauma.
No.
It's like how was
Wow.
it
Yes, yeah,
inspiring?
that
That
was
really
the
That was,
word.
yeah, that was the word, inspiring. She fleeing from her country and taking refuge, being a refugee in another
Another
place
country
for
away
two
from our
years.
family. Yeah,
For
away from
two
our
years.
family, and also dealing with the burden of being able to have the opportunity to leave, have the opportunity to continue school, and have the opportunity to explore further opportunities for school. Where girls in Afghanistan, they aren't going to school.
And he
So
found it inspiring.
No, she found
yeah,
it
it
like
was a
inspiring.
woman who found it inspiring.
Inspiring.
She found it very inspiring. She understood.
She
That's
understood.
what she said. Those were her
I
words.
cannot. I
Well, it's
cannot.
the
And
same the same discourse that we've been hearing as the for the LDCs on the first day in the official discourses, like, oh, this is the 50th anniversary of the LDC, so we should be celebrating. We are celebrating the LDCs, and it's like, what is there to
Insane.
celebrate for the LDCs? Like,
I think
no.
no,
we
maybe,
need to make
maybe,
it clear that it's LDC 5. It's a program for meant for 10 years.
Yes.
So now that we are in LDC 5, it means it's been 50 years
Yes.
that the UN and other actors have been trying to graduate LDCs from that status,
maybe,
but they're failing.
and maybe we are celebrating. We started off with 21
I
or
was about
23
to say
countries,
this.
and we have now become 46, and we are going to
Yeah.
like half century. Maybe we have to celebrate that because we're nearing half century.
So let's make it clear, no?
Yeah.
When the LDC was founded, there were only
71.
21 countries.
in 1971 there were only 26 LDCs
21.
or 21.
But now in
50 years later,
there are actually
40.
46 LDCs in hopes of graduation.
Yeah.
With some of these countries, majority of these countries, I think someone said yesterday 35, and I could be wrong, but majority, let me say, are from Africa,
no,
or
yeah,
African
I heard
states,
that also.
which is
Yes,
quite
and also
heartbreaking.
And also, Jason Braganza from Afrodat was pointing out precisely on these figures that Marisa and Bevita are saying, that this is the point of these type of programs not working. And
Yeah.
they
Mm.
Yeah.
started with 21 and now they're 46, 47.
Something's not
It's
right.
Yeah.
it's really obscene. And so
Yeah.
again, we that takes us back to the need to reform the global financial architecture. And to our point, our feminist point, to change the system. We cannot keep on relying on the exploitation of nature, on land, on energy, material, labor, time of people, and really shift the system, especially when those that are benefiting are in the global north and they come with their charity and they say,
Yeah.
Mm.
"Oh,
Yeah.
we are so good." And we have heard these speeches across the sessions, and that is just infuriating.
And it's
Mhm.
not just charity, Emilia. Yesterday I heard Denmark saying that we are going to make LDCs the key targets of our support for the loss and damage fund. For me, um, it's very divisive. No, it's like we
Yeah,
know we should all be mindful of the bigger
Mm.
picture,
Yes.
that in this whole climate change, loss and damage campaigning that we did so hard at COP27, it's supposed to be for all developing countries.
yeah,
Now Denmark comes in, and he sounds like he's very good and supportive and progressive, but actually, reading between the lines, he wants to break the unity of
yeah,
the group of developing countries by promising to make LDC countries the key targets for the loss and damage fund. That is
yeah,
something that we also need to expose, no? How all of these rich country governments are saying all the nice stuff, but with the intention of breaking that unity of the all developing countries.
And that's
yeah,
why I feel that always these places and statements are very tricky, because if you're not really watchful, oh, it's easy that you sugarcoat things and you just give it to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing missing from this entire conference, am I going to say this? I think is again, they're very small snippets of gender, but we're not talking about gender enough. We're not talking about women and the way in which the burden falls on women to help countries develop, whether it's through entrepreneurship, where majority of the women in these countries are entrepreneurs. They're fisher women, they're working within as farmers or within agriculture. A
Mm.
lot of that is falling on women. I think that is very far removed. And when it's spoken about, it's spoken specifically in a market based way, whether it's market access, market diversity, those kinds of ways. And we are continuously told, take your bootstraps, get yourself together, and you get it done and you develop, you graduate. But I think that from the conversation where there's the point missing that women and girls are specifically impacted. And in addition to those women and girls, there are people living with disabilities. There are people from all of the marginalized groups. I haven't sit in a session within this space and heard anyone specifically mention indigenous people or
Mm.
rural
Exactly.
people. I haven't heard that.
Exactly.
I heard it very general, right? So
Yeah.
go on,
me,
Amelia. I'm sorry.
me
I'm
too.
sorry. Go on.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
I was mentioning indigenous people.
Yeah, Emilia was mentioning about the three forms of subsidies that people in the front lines actually do for the global north. That's your cue, my dear. What are those three
Go
subsidies?
ahead. No, let me go. Let me say something another, and then I'll go to the subsidies. I wanted to say that today is International Women's Day, so we're commemorating the struggle for gender equality for all women, all girls, and all people that are gender diverse, non-binary, etc., that are really trying to shift from this the the impositions of a sexual division of labor, of a gender divide, etc. But also, I think it's really important that us as the Spice Girl, we're focusing on the LDCs women precisely on International Women's Day, because we keep on insisting that it is the women in the global south, especially in the small island developing state, especially in the LDCs, the ones that are carrying the larger burden on the entire compound of multiple crises. Why? And this is where my cue in, because there are three global subsidies in the world. One is provided by the global south to the global north because of all of the exploitation that is happening. The global south is a real creditor to the global north. Second, the subsidy that women provide through their unpaid domestic and care work to the entire world, that is 60% of the entire economy.
Yes.
And third, the biodiversity subsidy that indigenous peoples are doing by upholding 80% of the entire biodiversity, while they are only 6% of the population. So we are really living on borrowed air at the moment, while the rest of the system is really destroying the biodiversity. So just wanted to say, to us it's really important because women in the south also, we are not living on the same situations, right? So the women in the LDCs, the small island developing state, they are living on the harshest conditions. So this is also our moment to flag their situations, flag their struggles, and to really stand in solidarity with them, put them at the forefront of our demands, of our asks. And this is why we say it's not because they are the poorest of the poor and we are bringing them so that we are not leaving anyone behind, but rather that the situation is a sign that the entire system is not working. If the system is thriving because we are exploiting the situation of the LDCs of small island developing instead of middle income countries, even with our huge inequality gap, that's our cue to shift the system and to say no more to this exploitation and extraction of capital, of material goods, of energy, etc. That all of the things that we have mentioned so far.
And of livelihoods. I
Yeah.
think that's the most important thing
I
too.
think this conference is an eye opener, no? That despite all the nice rhetorics, it's really about the fundamentals of why there is inequality in the first place. And these spaces legitimize that kind of, you know, extractive, exploitative world order. And that is why we need critical voices in these processes to try and unpack all the nice things that they seem to be saying and expose them for the truth, for what it really is. Like for instance, this morning, somebody from the International Organization of Migration was saying that migrants' remittances, the fruit of their blood, sweat, and tears, can actually be a very effective financing tool.
No,
It's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what is she saying? Migrants are forced to leave their
The
countries,
countries,
their
yeah.
families, because of poverty and the need to survive. It's not like it's a migration by choice. They were forced by all of these circumstances to look for employment opportunities outside their countries and families. And now
yeah.
the IOM is saying it can be leveraged as a tool, financing tool, because it is greater, larger than debt and foreign investments. Can you imagine that?
And it's more like saying, hey, we are drowning, let's drown with grace.
Yes.
No. What?
But I
No, no, no,
also
senor.
I also think that people forget that when people migrate, sometimes that they then are displaced from society, and maybe I'm not using the correct word, but they're also displaced from a lot of the societies that they end up being migrants in.
Yeah.
So even that in itself is actually quite hard for persons to deal with. So to think that you can build on the remittances of migrants is crazy. It's unacceptable. But I think
Yeah.
that I don't want to say specifically the global north, but the global north has a very different outlook, and I think we have to continue to engage in these spaces to get into their minds. I always say, oh, we can make change in small ways, and sometimes we feel like we're not doing enough, but we need to be able to manipulate their minds as much as they manipulate us, because I feel like in general the global north manipulates us. They control us. Everything is systemic, and in order to change it, we have to be able, in somewhere, in some means, to manipulate them as much as they've manipulated us over the years. Like even today, sitting in a meeting and hearing a white lady, I must say, a white lady use the word colonized and colonizing data and colonizing people, and
What?
I felt just as colonized. I was just like, don't use the word.
What does she know about colonization?
Yeah, I was like,
Or
please don't use the word.
digital colonization it was.
Yeah, but
But I
also what
really
was
want
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm mindful of the time. Just wanted to say that to us it's really important to talk about the LDC 5 because it's a major conference, as you have all been saying, that it only happens every 10 years and nobody's paying any attention to it. So this is
Mhm.
really
Yes.
important. It's not in the radar of most social movements, even people who engage in the UN spaces. And to us, it's really important to join the other organizations and social movements that are calling out for structural transformation, like Third World Network, Global Social Global Forum, SID, etc. All of Dawn, all of these organizations that are really organizing in the social
Space. Yeah.
space. But also, I wanted to say that this week and next week is CSW. It's
CSW.
happening in New York. Women are in New York fighting for digital justice
Yes.
for women and with a gender equality lens. And that's also major because of the digital companies. We just had Nandini some weeks ago help explaining us why this CSW was so important. But also wanted to say why I'm not there with you in Doha and I had to fly for 24 hours to
Crank,
Mexico
crank.
because I am going to attend the Friends of Monterrey meeting here in Mexico City because we're trying to make the connections between the LDC 5 and the financing for development process because this cannot be just an isolated conference every 10 years
Hmm.
and then we
Yeah.
forget talking
True.
about
True.
LDCs. How are we taking this debate to the larger global financial architecture? This is what is going to be discussed in the Friends of Monterrey towards the FFG conference that we have been discussing in several episodes of the Despise Girls. So just wanted to give the heads up to our audience that all of these elements that have been discussed in the UN, for us in our mind as movement, it has to have a coherence and an interrelations so that we're not just leaving people isolated.
And leaving people behind.
Oh, but you should be proud. Our very own Denise here
Thank you,
moderated
Denise.
a session at CSW yesterday. So imagine she's doing LDC 5 and then she also moderated the session on climate finance yesterday for CSW. So we're all multitasking in all of these different spaces.
Yes, thank you, Denise, for that.
So it's been 33 minutes already. Time
Wow.
flies. You take care of yourself, Emilia, huh? Don't overdo it.
And we miss you.
I miss you. Really miss you.
You're exploiting me.
Never.
Look at the dark side.
I don't
Okay.
see any tears.
I think the best way to end this special session, the women united
will never be defeated.
The women united.
Will never be defeated.
En
Emilia, where's it in
español.
Espanol? Sing it in Espanol.
No, Denise. She should say it.
Denise.
Denise, en español. El pueblo.
El pueblo, no, el pueblo.
Mujeres
unido.
unidas.
Las mujeres. No, en
Sorry,
español tenemos una canción. Em, Amelia,
We have to work better on that. Maybe
I'm
next
gonna learn it in
episode.
time for Bond.
Yeah.
Yes.
alerta, 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 alerta que camina. La lucha feminista.
Ah. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
Emilia. We love you.
Go back to bed.
Bye
Happy
bye.
International Women's Day.
Yes.